In 1922, archaeologist Howard Carter broke through a sealed doorway in the Valley of the Kings. Inside the pharaoh Tutankhamun's tomb, his team found gold, jewels, and furniture sitting untouched in the desert for over 3,000 years. But buried right beside the dead king, sealed inside alabaster jars, they found something unexpected. It was honey. And when they opened those jars, the 3,000-year-old liquid was still perfectly edible. You could have spread it on toast. Every other food eventually rots. Bread rapidly molds, raw meat decays, and fruit turns to mush. Yet honey just sits there. Centuries pass by, empires collapse around it, and it refuses to go bad. The survival of this liquid, something that can outlast the civilizations that built these tombs, depends entirely on a fragile biological system that is currently beginning to buckle. Honey survives because it is less a food and more a fortress. It relies on 4 distinct layers of chemistry to keep itself sterile and naturally hostile to virtually all microbial life. The first defense is its extreme lack of moisture. When bees make honey, they fan their wings to evaporate the water content. They drop that moisture level below 18%, creating an environment far too dry for bacteria to survive. The second line of defense is its acidity. This scale shows where honey falls in relation to other fluids. It sits between 3 and 4.5, putting it in the same acidic range as vinegar or grapefruit juice. Then the bees add a more active defense. They introduce an enzyme from their salivary glands called glucose oxidase. As this enzyme breaks down the sugars, it produces a chemical byproduct, hydrogen peroxide. The honey continuously generates its own antiseptic. Then there is osmotic pressure. Honey is hygroscopic, actively pulling moisture from its surroundings. If a bacterium survives the acid and peroxide, the honey draws the water directly out of the bacterial cell, dehydrating it on contact. Combined, these 4 properties create a passive, unpowered sterilization system. That is why ancient humans successfully relied on honey for serious medical wound care thousands of years before the invention of synthetic antibiotics. Our relationship with this substance goes back long before recorded history. 8,000 years ago, early humans were already risking their lives, scaling sheer rock faces just to harvest this dense, non-spoiling energy source. While ripe fruit and roots provided carbohydrates, they were often seasonal or fiber-heavy. Honey delivered pure, concentrated glucose that required no digestion. Because our brains consume roughly 20% of our daily calories, despite making up only 2% of our body weight, some researchers believe this reliable access to high-density fuel helped push our ancestors toward larger, more energy-demanding brains. We weren't the only ones who recognized its value. Across sub-Saharan Africa, a bird called the greater honey guide evolved to actively seek out humans, chattering and fluttering from branch to branch to lead them directly to wild hives. As human societies grew, honey became central to their economies. The ancient Egyptians treated it as a divine offering for their gods, paid their monumental construction workers with it, and cataloged over 500 medical remedies requiring its use. Modern medicine is now circling back to those ancient treatments. Today, hospitals deploy specific varieties, like Manuka honey from New Zealand, to destroy antibiotic-resistant superbugs like MRSA, infections that resist our most advanced pharmaceuticals.
For tens of thousands of years, humans revered this golden liquid as a miracle of the natural world. And for that entire stretch of history, acquiring it meant interacting with and relying entirely upon undisturbed wild nature. Up until 1851, harvesting honey usually required destroying the hive and killing the colony to reach the honeycomb. It was a clumsy, wasteful process. Then, a minister named Lorenzo Langstroth made a crucial observation. He noticed that bees reliably leave a specific 3/8 of an inch gap between their combs, a measurement he called bee space, which they kept open to use as a passageway. Langstroth used that exact measurement to design the movable frame hive. Beekeepers could finally pull out individual combs, harvest the honey, and slide the frames back into place without causing any structural damage to the colony. That single invention turned beekeeping from a destructive seasonal harvest into a repeatable industrial process. It allowed the mass production of honey for the very first time. Today, commercial operations load millions of managed colonies onto flatbed trucks. moving them thousands of miles to pollinate sprawling agricultural operations. The honey itself has become secondary. The true commercial value lies in propping up global crop pollination. Historically, honey's only real vulnerability was human carelessness. If you left a jar open in a humid room, water would get in, wild yeast would take hold, and the sugar would ferment, which is how ancient humans accidentally invented mead. Compare that historical accident to the crisis discovered in the autumn of 2006. Beekeepers began opening their hives and finding them entirely empty. The adult worker bees had simply vanished in a phenomenon known as colony collapse disorder. Researchers eventually uncovered a massive web of compounding stressors.
First, a global parasitic mite called Varroa destructor spread through hives worldwide, feeding on the bees and crippling their immune systems. Second, heavy use of agricultural pesticides caused severe neurological damage. The doses were sometimes too low to kill the bees immediately, but enough to scramble their memories. They could fly out to forage, but they could no longer find their way home. Add to that the stress of being trucked constantly across the country to feed on endless single-crop monoculture farms. We were stripping away the wildflower diversity they relied on for basic survival. As real honey gets harder to produce, the economic gap is filled by widespread fraud. International markets are now flooded with ultra-filtered, cheap corn and rice syrups, legally masquerading under fake labels. We are mass-producing corn syrup imitations of a substance that has survived for 3 millennia inside a tomb, while simultaneously poisoning the very insects that engineered the real thing. Next time you see a jar of honey sitting on your kitchen counter, take a moment to look at it. That golden liquid connects you through an unbroken chain of human history. It links you back to the wealthy Roman landowners who built sprawling estates to farm it, to the Greek athletes who ate it before Olympic sprints, and to the Egyptian builders who accepted it as wages for the pyramids. Its low water content, its acidity, and its enzymes guarantee that the honey itself will never die. But the small insects flying from flower to make it happen don't have that same chemical invincibility. Their future depends entirely on us.